Good morning, everyone. Good morning. First of all, thank you for joining us today. This session actually really comes from a conversation that started earlier this year during C.A.R.E conference, where we had an opportunity to discuss something that I personally believe is becoming increasingly important in Poland, and why safety education matters and how we build competence for the future workforce. Very often we talk about health and safety, we focus on compliance or incidents, but I think today we can talk about something very important, developing health and safety professionals. And I have a very special guest today. First of all, let me introduce Dee Arp. I think everyone who knows NEBOSH knows Dee. Dee is a NEBOSH Chief Quality Officer and immediate past president of INSPO. And I think Dee is also one of the most influential voices in global occupational health and safety. 25 years in the profession, and she started her work at ROSPA, where she developed training programs and helped implement safety governance. And today at NEBOSH, she leads qualification development, assessment, and compliance. As well, we do have Becky with us, and Becky will also share her piece about NEBOSH qualification, competencies, and why it's important. So thank you for joining us today. Remember that all of you can ask your questions. It's a Q&A session at the end. So feel free to ask any questions you have about NEBOSH. And myself, I'm Dana, the Managing Director of the NEBOSH Learning Partner, new to see in Poland. And we've been NEBOSH Learning Partner for over, I think, 14 years now. So, so let me start maybe with the first question. I think the first question for you, Dee, is I think we look at the Polish market today and we try to understand how we structure safety education and why it matters, and how NEBOSH comes into play if it comes to development, health and safety development in Poland, because we see that Poland is changing if it comes to the requirements, the culture, maturity, development, and changes if it comes to employer expectations and health and safety expectations. So let's have that discussion, Dee. How do you see that role of NEBOSH in developing our workforce in Poland?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Really a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I mean, it's a really relevant question, and we do have a presentation I can cover in more detail some of the points, but I think the first thing, it's the context of the world that we're living in. You know, the world is changing at a pace quicker than ever before, and not just in the health and safety sector, but every sector. You know, education is just so important. People need upskilling, reskilling to keep up to date with what's happening in the world. And in health and safety, risk profiles in Poland, in other countries in the world, are changing. So again, we need to make sure that our profession is upskilled and updated. And we can pop on to the next slide, Jeanette, if you don't mind, because it gives some of these points. You know, you can't go to any conference or any working group or any session like this without talking about the importance of technology, of AI. And again, you know, these bring huge opportunities, but challenges as well. We need to make sure people have got the right skills to be able to use them effectively. I think another reason is expectations of employees are changing in a very good way. You know, sometimes now, employees or prospective employees are almost interviewing the employer and checking that the values align and what are you going to do for me, and that's great for work-life balance. I mentioned the changing risk landscape, so important now, and I know this is a passion of yours, Jeanette, that we talk about well-being and looking after people and valuing everybody in the organisation. But that brings different skill sets for our profession as well. So again, safety education is so important. So I think, NEBOSH has got to make sure that our qualifications, the content in our qualifications constantly changes at the pace that is needed by the world. So that's absolutely what we aim to do. And the next slide, please, Jeanette. And this slide really covers some of the key drivers that we see specifically for our profession, even though there's relevance in other sectors as well. We've got to upskill our profession to get the best use out of technology and everything in that digital space. And a huge amount of data analytics is available as now. We get much more real-time information, for example, in health surveillance with wearables and sensors and everything in that AI space. But with it, it brings, and I can't emphasize this enough, and you'll see this throughout the presentation, this is all amazing and we've got to embrace the change. We absolutely have, because there's huge opportunities. But my worry for the world is that we lose our humanity. We're in a world that is more connected than ever before, but equally I think it can isolate people more than ever before. And, my message to everybody, and this comes as well, not just from me, but from the regulators, from different organisations across the world, is keep that human in the loop. Get the best out of technology, but keep the human in the loop. We can't trust it to be completely accurate all of the time. And equally keep human in the loop to keep our humanity, to keep connected with people. And that brings in that need for that psychological risk and psychological safety in our organisations. And it helps people prepare for the change and the complexity that is around us. And like I said, things like climate change, we're still settling down after COVID and dealing with different working arrangements, hybrids and agile. I think the OSH profession is being stretched potentially more than ever before. We've already had quality, environmental issues added on. Now there's potentially security, the psychosocial. So again, it is about that connectivity. Our safety education needs to be, and a mantra of mine is we're stronger together. We need to reach out to other professions, connect and join those dots and work together in a holistic way to look after our people. On the next one, please, Jeanette. So we need to make sure at NEBOSH, at other learning centres, that we're embracing all of these global drivers. And now I think when we look at what employers need, and you know this, they need people that are ready to hit the ground running. I think vocational qualifications used to be seen as a poor relation to academia. Now what we're seeing is employers want people that have got the right skills to be able to go into the workplaces and make a difference, straight away. So we're talking much more about our qualifications delivering competence. We need to make sure that our learners go into a workplace with knowledge, but also in this fast-paced world with the ability to use that knowledge and apply it to make a difference. And all that is happening in a space that is moving super quickly. And our challenge at NEBOSH is to make sure that we move with that change, but not lose the quality in our qualifications. And that is so important, because NEBOSH's reputation, that of our learning partners, that of our learners, is about the confidence that employers get when a NEBOSH qualified learner goes into their workplace. So, you have that assurance from us that we're connected to different organisations across Europe, globally, all looking at how learning and assessment is changing. And the next one, please. So certainly within that change, we are looking at how we can embrace technology, but not remove that human oversight. So in our processes, we are looking at how can we use technology to make sure we're getting the best available content. How can we use it to fill that blank page when we're designing assessments? Can we use it to enhance our marking capability? But none of that will happen without humans still being in that loop. So again, in the education and assessment space, there's real clarity on that use technology, but do not let it drive the change. It needs to enhance it, not drive it. And the next one, please. So one thing I didn't mention on an earlier slide was this fact that, as well as everything else that's changing around us, most workplaces now will have these 4 generations of people, and it's not as black and white as saying everybody in each category is exactly the same. However, I think as we go through these generations, language, how we communicate has changed, how we expect to access information, how learners of today want to learn and be assessed has changed. So at NEBOSH, working with our learning partners, we need to embrace that as well. How do we make sure that the qualifications, the learning that we put out there is structured, but also embraces all those different ways to communicate across those different generations. So the next one looks at what this means for the OSH profession. So we know that knowledge remains absolutely essential. It is crucial, but it's not enough. We need to prepare our learners to be able to apply that knowledge and apply it in changing and different situations. So it's really, NEBOSH working with our learning partners to ensure, the training, the learning that we deliver achieves that. We need to prepare them to deliver, the hazard, the risk management skills, but also within a culture of care, not just rely on the technology, to still absolutely embrace the importance of humanity in their role. Sometimes there's nothing more important than just saying to somebody, how can I help you? Are you okay? What do you need from me to be okay? In our profession, almost every person I meet in this profession is an amazing human being that is in the profession because they want to make that difference. So, OSH professionals have got those skills to really move organisations to that culture of care. So, NEBOSH is working in this space to make sure that we are working with our learning partners to deliver the right skills. So if we just move on now to the next one, and this leads into, the real essence of this session, which is about the importance of structured safety education. So it needs to be structured so we get consistency. We need learning that is structured with definitive learning outcomes, so it's very clear that that knowledge is portable and transferable, that if somebody does training in one country, there's relevance in other countries as well, that they can make their knowledge specific in different areas when they need to. So we're giving them the ability to continuously learn. It's also about that development of competence. I said, structure in knowledge and then the ability to apply it is so important. And also when we've got structured safety education, it enables learners to make evidence-based decision making, because we're giving the knowledge that is based on years of experience, that is based on research, that is based on best practice. And also it matters because we then give those skills, the knowledge to apply that in the workplace, but within that proactive safety culture. And there's probably a whole other webinar, Jeanette, isn't there, about whether it's a safety culture now or whether we should just talk about organisational culture. And the next one, please. And again, it's structured. It gives us measurable outcomes. So we know what a learner is going to be able to do. We know what they will know when they've continued and completed a structured learning session. We can make sure that a structured approach aligns with regulatory best practice requirements, but also professional membership expectations as well. So that structure makes sure that we get the recognised professional memberships such as IOS, the American bodies, Poland, and so on. And that all means as well that we can make sure that when we structure our safety education, we're continually adapting it and changing it to keep up with that pace of change. And that all, of course, builds that professional credibility and confidence. And the next one, please. Yeah, apologies, I'm going quite quickly and there's a lot of information, I know, but I wanted to give a lot of information. So anybody that wants it is welcome to the content of this presentation. And you referenced this in your question about this shift of compliance to care as well. So the profession has already changed over a lot of years. Our traditional identity was very much with compliance. It came out of that first industrial revolution. It was about technical expertise. It was about the checklist. It was about incident investigation. And the next one, please. And it led us into that era of what many people recognise as safety one. That whole essence of how do we prevent things from going wrong? What lessons do we learn from failures, from mistakes. So it was compliance, it was learning from incidents. But as we've moved on, there's recognition in the profession that that's not enough. And I love this. This is about recognizing the good as well as what's gone wrong. So safety 2 was about, let's not just be about compliance. Let's look at what is going right and understand why it's going right so often. And this starts to bring in the skills to succeed in different conditions. It's recognizing that things do change and people do need to adapt to different situations. So safety 2 built on safety 1 foundations, about continually learning and adapting. And then we get the HOP era, the human and organizational performance. That kind of brings that all together. So this is a way, and the next slide, Jeanette, is to really bring that safety 1 foundation, understanding the safety 2 of the OSH professional, and really starting to develop that organizational culture of care. Understanding that people will make mistakes, but to blame people is optional. We don't do that. We shouldn't do that. Learning is essential. Safety education, structured safety education still needs to learn from what went wrong, but move to that psychologically safe culture where people feel safe to speak up. So as we move to the next one, all of that really leans into understanding this structured safety educational approach and the need for this skill shift. So our profession needs to upskill as well. We need to make sure our profession has got that data literacy, that they can use tech in the right way. I think there's still a lot of work for us to do, working with each other in the profession about influence and communication. Whenever I get a chance to talk to people in this profession, I always like to say thank you. Thank you to our learning partners, Jeanette. Thank you to the people that you educate, because you are the ones that are out there doing the influencing, communicating with people and making that difference. And I think that's where we really need to support our profession. How do they communicate with the worker on the shop floor that's facing the hazards every day? How do they make the shift and communicate with C-suite to get their message across? These are all skill sets on top of hazard risk management, all the other elements that we ask our profession to understand and implement. And the next one, because I'm just very mindful of time, we need to give our profession, as I've mentioned a few times now, the understanding of AI and automation. How can it support the profession? How can we educate our people to use it ethically and support them? How do we help them understand where AI says, you can never ever say, I don't know. It will always try and help and answer. So it's making sure that we've got the skills in the profession to sift through the information and know what's accurate and know perhaps what isn't as much. We need our profession on the next one, Jeanette, please, to have that strategic seat at the table. We need them, as I say, communicating with everybody in the organisation. But I think one core skill is every OSH professional is a leader. They need to be recognised as such, and we need to give them the skills to communicate at C-suite level. So not just to talk the OSH language, but to talk the C-suite language. And that means on the next slide, we're really moving our safety manager skill set to systems leaders. So this is about understanding complex systems, understanding and embracing change in the workplaces, that ability to influence decision-making at the most senior levels, and we've said this so long in the profession, making sure that safety is integrated into organisational strategy. And when I'm using safety in this sense, I'm embracing health within that as well. I think we all know we've still got a long way to go in making sure that health becomes part of the agenda. That's captured on the next slide. I've said this will be a key in this profession. We need to make sure that we remain within our humanity. Tech is great. The complexity is challenging. We need psychological safety. We need the human touch. I love this quote. What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say.
Wow.
I love that. People will forget what you say. They'll forget what you do, but they will remember how you made them feel. And I think as a profession, we are so well placed to make people feel valued, to make people know that they matter. And the next one, I think another skill our profession absolutely needs is curiosity. This does put you in the space of learning rather than blaming. It's about that continuous mindset. It's about making space ourselves. So it's about looking after our own well-being as well. And I sometimes think we forget ourselves. We're so busy, we're trying to keep up with the pace of change, but we need to create space for ourselves to remain curious and space for ourselves to make sure that we are well and we're serving our needs as well. And the next one, and we are nearly there, I promise. So we need to make sure that well-being is key to culture. Safety and well-being are becoming increasingly inseparable. And I know there's a whole debate about structured safety education. Should well-being be in the OSH space? I think even if it's not part of the job role, we need to be talking to the people who do have well-being, whether that's HR or other people in organisations. We do need to join those dots. People bring their whole selves to work. They don't leave any aspect of it. So we need to recognise that in how we manage that. That all adds up, I think, to a new professional identity, which is nearly the last slide. So we do need to keep on that journey from compliance to strategic business partner. And I know our profession has been working on that for many years. We need to embrace technology. We still need to understand, risk management and be in that risk intelligence space. But more and more, I think we need to be an influencer and a communicator, but also that guardian of safety in the wellbeing space as well. All of that puts us in good shape to look after everybody in our workplace. And I've included another quote here, and this is just to really make the point that although so much is changing around us, some things don't change. This is a quote from 1851 that says, for people to be happy in their work, they need to be fit and healthy for it. They shouldn't have too much of it, and they must have a sense of success in it. So they need to be educated. 1851. So much is changing, but hold on to the fact that the reason that we all do what we do is to keep people safe, healthy, and well. People are at the core of what we do, and that hasn't changed. And the work we do, and this is the last slide, builds into the World Health Organization healthy workplace model. And this puts all of that together, that if we keep in our hearts that ethics and values are at the heart of everything, that is only achieved when everybody in the organization communicates within a health and safety management system, but also take into account every individual's environment and community. When we bring all that together, we're moving on that journey of keeping people safe, healthy, and well every day. That is the end of my little bit, but I know Becky now is going to set that more in the NEBOSH context. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's amazing. Dee, first of all, I would like to say I'm very, very proud to be part of that family, NEBOSH family, because I think that what stuck with me, that every OSH professional is a leader, that's safety to be integrated into strategy and business, and key in our profession is to remain in our humanity, being curious, caring, culture of care, and ability to influence. So basically, we're talking about that the world is evolving, the same as our profession. And I think that, as I keep saying, that if we're very proud to be health and safety professionals, because we're serving our people, our societies. And first of all, before we move into Becky, would like to welcome our audience and say that feel free to ask any questions. We'll have Q&A session at the end. And we have a lot of, we have a lot of people watching us. So good morning, everyone, once again. Good morning. So Becky, I think the question now, and the question we have very often here in Poland is, what will this qualification NEBOSH realistically give me?
Well, yeah, that's a good question, Jeanette,
yes,
isn't it?
Yeah. So, practical skills, capabilities, education. Yeah. If you can cover that piece, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. I think first I'd love to set the scene, and just for anybody that doesn't know that much about NEBOSH, at the end of these slides is the ones that I've done. I've only got 4, so I won't be doing that many. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing that, and I'll set the scene on NEBOSH, and then there's a little bit about our qualifications, and I'll be able to answer your question then.
Absolutely.
Great. So if you just move on to the next one. Thanks, Jeanette. So good morning, everyone. I'm Becky Futers. I work at NEBOSH alongside Dee, but I'm also the account manager for Jeanette and her learning partner, New HSE. So me and Jeanette speak quite often. But what I want to do today to begin with is just let everybody know a little bit about NEBOSH if you don't know very much about it. So we are a global charity and we are focused on health and safety through education, as Dee's kind of alluded to in her talk. We operate on a genuine global scale. So contextually, 69,000 learners across 168 countries achieved NEBOSH qualifications last year. That's just like kind of a wild number of people if you think about that. And our qualifications are internationally recognized, and the key thing for us is that they focus on building, as Dee said, the practical competencies. Practical application to knowledge is key to the learner journey, and it's what gets people home from work safely. And we're so keen to continue to develop that application to knowledge through the work that we do with our learning partners. So that's just a little bit about NEBOSH there. And next year, I think it's 50 years next year, isn't it, Dee, for NEBOSH? So that's a big, exciting turning point. So you could maybe I'll be able to give you the numbers of how many learners we've had in that entire time by then. That might be a big number. We'll set that as a challenge for our IM team. So on to the qualifications though. So NEBOSH has 21 qualifications now that are publicly accessible through our network of learning partners. Now, not every learning partner offers every qualification, and that's down to the subset of what their tutors do and the clients that they work with and things like that. Now, I know, Jeanette, that you've got one of everything on this list bar the masters, which is done specifically with one university in the UK. So New HSE, for example, does have award level qualifications, our certificates and diploma. So a little bit about those is that our award level qualifications in the UK, we would class that as a level 2 qualification. But contextually, what does that mean? That's a foundational course that anybody in an organisation, or even if you're not working, could do one of those qualifications and be able to change their behaviour to impact the safety of others. And they'd have all of the building blocks to get going and hopefully get the bug for health and safety and think, oh, that's a profession I want to go into. Some of those courses also have a bit more specific skill sets as well, like our incident investigation and our risk assessment work award. Those give you really key skills in those areas as well. And as you progress up our ladder of what we call the learner pathway, you would then move on to certificate level. So many people watching may have already heard of the International General Certificate. That is one of the key factors in our certificate level qualifications with its counterpart, the National General in the UK. And this qualification really does open the door to countless different professions, different opportunities, and really does start you on that pathway of application to knowledge, sets the scene for everything. You will do a risk assessment in your workplace as part of the gaining the qualification as well. So you're taught how to do it. Jeanette would be teaching you how to do it, and then you have to go to your workplace to do your assessment. And you know that you're seeing things firsthand that you're used to as well. So the certificates are really the door opener to the start of really moving forward in the health and safety professionals. And then we'd move on to diploma if you wanted to, which you've got the international diploma, which would benefit Poland's workforce, which Jeanette and the team do deliver in Poland, and there are other learning partners that do that across the globe as well. And that benefits you to open up those more next level roles within health and safety. So that's where the diploma are. Masters, that's based in the UK, but we also, across those 21 qualifications, have very bespoke qualifications that can kind of help you move in different directions. So if you want to learn more about managing stress, if you want to learn more about how to develop your leadership skills as a health and safety leader, we have qualifications on that as well. So we've got a very diverse portfolio that will meet the needs that you have across your organization, and anybody can start their pathway to health and safety through NEBOSH qualifications. If you want to pop onto the next one for me, Jeanette. So I just want to talk a little bit about why is NEBOSH focusing on Poland at the moment? So what we've noticed with Poland is there's a growing demand for international health and safety qualifications in Poland on top of what you've already got that's in country. And it's really going hand in hand with that. So we're bringing you the practical competencies and application to knowledge that NEBOSH benefits from all our years, as I've alluded to so far, 49 years of experience in doing that. So and it's becoming more favourable by the Polish workforce. You've got lots of huge projects going on, giga projects at the moment, lots of transformation and refurbishment of different big sector areas for the communities. So it's a really big focus to make sure that the people on the ground are safe and getting home from work safely as well. And NEBOSH has noticed that, and we want to make sure that we're developing the Polish workforce to get home safely, and do that via Jeanette and our other learning partners in the area. And we were going to be coming and doing events and supporting and doing different talks like this throughout the time. So hopefully I've answered your question, Jeanette, in a with a little bit of extra in there for you. That is really all from me, that we're here and we're watching. We'd love to know more about what the Polish workforce wants from NEBOSH, really.
Thank you for the last dziękuję. Dziękuję, that's really nice of you. Yes, I do think, first of all, thank you. Thank you for supporting Poland on behalf of all Polish citizens, because I do agree with you that Poland is growing, demand is growing, but also maturity and understanding of health and safety value. And I do realize that working with international companies, that more and more they're looking at the safety as a value, business value. So as the demand is growing, the quality of health and safety professionals evolving. So I do believe that NEBOSH, if you're looking at your career path, I think NEBOSH would be your best choice. So I would like just to say that we do have some comments from our audience. Thank you so much. So wonderful presentation. Thanks, Dee. Then I'm glad I'm joined. Always fulfilling listening to Dee. So Dee, these are your followers. But I think we do. If you do have some questions, please feel free to ask, because I think that we're ready to take some
I can spot
questions.
some, Jeanette, for you, because I've been having a little look. So I think this is probably one aimed at Dee more than anything, and I'm sure you can wade in as well, Jeanette, as you're both more technical than myself. But do you think someone's saying HSE are changing? So do you think such measures will become more norm in the business world, or perhaps they already are? Do you know of any other examples worth mentioning?
Oh, this is an example I think he covered.
Yeah, so he's got a question above it. I've heard about a large corporation that was recently barred from taking part in a tender in Denmark due to 2 fatal accidents. I think that this is the best example how attitudes towards the role of HSE are changing. So then, do you think such measures will become the norm in business world, or perhaps they already are? Do you know of any other examples worth mentioning?
I think it is changing. I think it's, in my experience, it's different across the world. I think there is really positive, significant change. And I love, Jeanette, that you mentioned about organisations having safety as a value. And we see that now. People. I was at a conference not very long ago where a senior leader stood up and said, "We don't prioritise safety anymore." And there was like a huge intake of breath, like, how dare you? But he went on to say, because it's a value.
Because it's a value.
Priorities can change. We're making it a value. So there are some, huge corporates out there that have got the resources and the facilities to really bring about that cultural shift. I mentioned about the pace of change at the beginning of the presentation and how we're more connected. I think we're a smaller world in many ways, but there's still huge differences across the world. There are still parts of the world where they're still working to embed just standard health and safety management systems. And the example that was given for Denmark would not be applicable in those regions. So I think it's very variable as you go across the world. And it's back to my mind, stronger together. We need to reach out to the places where they need the help and the support from our profession.
So a couple of days ago, I had an interview about NEBOSH in Poland, and it was held in Polish language. And then it created a lot of discussions in the comments. And there were several questions, and I would like to tackle them if that's okay. So one of the comments was, NEBOSH is only for existing health and safety practitioners. So I think that there is a misunderstanding about that health and safety, that NEBOSH is not, but we have such a range and diversity of qualifications. So if you could maybe touch on that one, that health and safety, that NEBOSH is not only for existing and working health and safety practitioners.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm sure Becky will add as well. No, I mean, our career pathway and the progression of the qualifications allows somebody to come in perhaps at health and safety award level with no previous experience, and work their way up through the general certificate, a more specialised one, or to diploma. So I think that absolutely needs correcting and communicating. But I think as well, our qualifications are not just for the OSH profession. What we see in some of the organisations where safety is becoming embedded as a value, those organisations are training their team leaders, their managers in the health and safety award, in the certificate. So I think our qualifications are structured for a health and safety professional career path, but they're also there to embed health and safety as a value in organisations by upskilling everybody. Yeah, I mean, Becky, I don't know if you want to add to.
There's also a lot of transferable skills, and I touched on this at our LP conference already, haven't I, this week, Dee?
You did.
So our incident investigation qualification is a level 2 qualification. As I said before, all of our qualifications are open to anyone to take. But I personally have taken all of our level 2s. And the incident investigation opened up a line of how to draw out questioning that supported my ISO 9001 auditing. That the course I did for that didn't give me the practical application to knowledge. It didn't give me enough skills. I learned so much more. So transferable skills in it means that they're not just there for the OSH. They do set you up brilliantly for a career in that, but they can go across sectors. They can be suitable for so many different things. We all have a need for well-being. We're all working hard in jobs. Our well-being at work award is a level 2 as well that can be put into anybody's job role, or even if you're just a stay-at-home mum or dad, or you just don't work, because it gives you practical skills to support your well-being. And then as part of that pathway, for example, if you're managing people, leading people, we've got our managing stress at work qualification that really helps you understand how to be a leader and consider people's stress that has impacts on accidents, health related absences and things like that. So we've considered all of those different options, and we've also got an entire environmental pathway as well throughout our qualification. So we're quite diverse in what we do, but we're also very kind of strategic in what we choose to go with, because we want every single one of our qualifications to add value and meet our aims as well. So I hope that.
And just quickly to add, I think where we do support the OSH profession once they've undertaken our qualifications is via the alumni. So our diploma, our degree holders, we do then seek to serve their continued development with sessions like this, with our own alumni webinars, with conferences. So absolutely, that is where we would support the OSH profession. But as Becky said, there's a whole raft of other qualifications for other routes as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because that was exactly my comment as well. That I think the one of the biggest value of NEBOSH that it's not only for OSH professionals, but we're talking about, but also decision makers. We're talking about top management, maintenance, supply chain, logistics, anyone. I think who is serving and working with people, that will be something valuable. Another question I had was about AI. So some of the comments were in by our Polish colleagues that, oh, now with OB it's going to be easier to pass the exams, and because it's just AI. And I think it's worth talking about, and I mentioned many times during interview that NEBOSH and learning partners take a very rigorous programs and systems and policies to control the use of AI in the assessment strategies. But I think it's worth, if it comes from you, telling that the quality of our assessments and the quality, the way we monitor the use of AI is absolutely at the highest level. And
it's a great point, I mean, and it's something that NEBOSH qualifications are regulated qualifications, are regulated by Qualifications Scotland and Ofqual. Both of those regulators, one of their key strategic objectives is providing additional guidance and support on and around the use of AI. What they're saying is that we need to, which we do, we need to put a lot of effort upfront in designing the assessments to try and design out opportunities to misuse that assessment, to cheat or to use AI in the wrong way. So we're working very closely with them to make sure that we're always compliant. As you know, when we brought in the open book exam, it was in response to the restrictions of COVID. So it was brought in pretty swiftly to get our learners moving. And it's achieved that. I think the feedback we get is it's a really good vocational valid assessment. It really continues the learning journey. But of course, when we brought that in back in 2020, we didn't have the explosion that we've now seen of ChatGPT and other similar online AI system tools, which are just improving all the time. So some of the measures that we have in place, we're working with Turnitin. So Turnitin is the anti-plagiarism tool. All platforms like that are constantly trying to work and update and get that step ahead of AI. Because AI is an ever-moving target. It's just advancing all the time. But we're working with platforms like that will weed out where we think it's an AI-assisted response. So as soon as there is any doubt about the authenticity of a learner's response, our ethical practice team will pull that and pause the result of the outcome to that learner, and there'll be an investigation on that. You'll see some evidence of the outcomes of that in our ethical practice report that shows how many learners are not awarded a qualification, and not just not awarded it, but they're barred from taking any future qualifications. If any learning partners are found to be implicit in any way in assisting learners in a non-authentic way, we will part company with them as well. So the number of learning partners that we work with has reduced significantly in the latter months. The other element of the open book that we brought in right from the beginning was the closing interview. And Jeanette, we asked learning partners to talk to us about that and assist us with that. So the closing interview checks with the learner that has registered for that assessment. It confirms the answers they gave in the assessment is from that person. So that's another lens on whether or not the submission was authentic. We take it incredibly seriously. It is a moving target. We work incredibly hard to make sure we keep up with that. But it's so important. As I say, everything about this has been about structured learning. If the learner hasn't actually got the knowledge and the skills, that can impact on people's lives and health. So we take it very importantly. The other thing that we're working on is our new assessment platform that will really help with all the checks and balances around this. And we also have a working group that has got internal members of staff at NEBOSH and external assessment and educational experts looking at assessment strategies how do we get ahead? What does assessment need to look like going forward? So we are aware that potentially, different assessments for our qualifications might need to change because of all the things I mentioned in the presentation, but very importantly to make sure that we are only awarding to authentic learners. So thank you for the question. It's incredibly important to us.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it comes from you as well. Because I think another point is the way the assessments are designed, because NEBOSH is not more looking for the knowledge that you can read in the books, but it's about your ability to utilize that knowledge and put it into the practice. So based on real scenarios, that's very difficult to just copy paste it from ChatGPT, because it does require your analytical skills and make sure that you do apply different preventive strategies to different scenarios and being in the different roles. So you can be an operator, you can be a OSH professional, you can be a construction manager. So I do believe that OB is not a new thing. And there is a question: when NEBOSH in Polish?
Great question.
That is a really good question. So we are looking at pilots in other languages at present. Jeanette is aware of this. That pilot does need to go through, and we need to see that we can maintain the vigorous quality standards that we need. We also need to have enough moderators and examiners in that language. So we need enough professionals that can do that. So watch this space. What I'll say is, hopefully, all being well, we can look to the future for that. But we are in the process of that. We know that people want it and need it. And we never, and I'm sure Dee will agree with us, want to ever prevent anybody from taking a NEBOSH qualification if English isn't your strong suit. So we are working on it, but we need to get it right. And because, as Dee said, the qualifications are regulated, we have to go through a lot of processes to make sure we get that right. So just bear with us, but we are here, we are listening. Yes, yes. So
maintain the quality. Agree, because it does require also, I think, a wider understanding within the society, working with universities, and this is what we're trying to do in Poland for the last 10 years, explaining, understanding. But we do have so many people graduated and having NEBOSH certification in Poland now. A lot of success stories in Poland, and I think that in the future we might think about having NEBOSH in Polish, but it does have to be the right quality. Because I do believe it's not only about translating materials, but having the right capacity to maintain the quality of assessments as well. And maybe there is a question coming from Emma.
Emma, that's an interesting question. Over the years we've seen it started with that compliance with health and safety, health always being a poor relation, and then environmental seemed to get added on to a lot of OSH professionals' roles and really take over from the health aspect. I think to try and answer that question in the time we've got, I think what we're seeing now is a big push with sustainability, and a lot of people just see environment as the bigger picture of sustainability. And of course, we know it's a lot wider than that. Sustainability includes organisation resilience, finances, very important, the S in ESG, it's about the people. So I think to answer the question, it's really going to depend on the size and the structure of the organisation. I think if it's a very small organisation, environment might stay in one area. But I think certainly in bigger organisations, it should be separate. But what is super important is joining the dots between the professions, because they're all interconnected. It's all about protecting the environment, which is about protecting, people. We're protecting the environment to look after people. So it all comes back to that S in ESG. So, yeah, I think, when we talk about safety as a value and safety being a business partner, it's it is about integrating into organisational structures. So I think however we split off competencies and core skills, the key for me is joining the dots between them, that everybody talks and it's interconnected and we get that holistic approach.
And I think that this is going to be the last question we're taking today. So how to find proper good NEBOSH Learning Centre?
So it's key to utilize an accredited learning partner. I'll start off with that. So how would you go about finding one of those? Well, you would go to the NEBOSH website. We have a lovely new updated where to study section. So you can filter by the qualification that you would like to do, the country. If you know learning partners in your area, you can look up to see if they do the qualifications you have. You can search by mode of study, as we do have learning partners that offer e-learning, face-to-face, part-time, virtual live training. So being a learner, you know how you learn best. So sometimes what might be the best learning partner in the world may not deliver the mode of study that you need for you to learn and get the application to knowledge, because we all learn differently. So utilizing the where to study to find the perfect learning partner for you is there. If you're looking in Poland, you can search for Poland. We have New HSE, and we do have one other learning partner at present, but we do have other learning partners that also can deliver e-learning there. And I know Jeanette's team have started with e-learning, for example. So just pop on the NEBOSH website. All of our accredited learning partners are on there. If they're not on there, they're not accredited. That's basically the golden rule. And get in touch with NEBOSH, the info@nebosh.org.uk. Let us know. Ask the question if they're not on there, and we'll let you know if they're definitely an accredited centre or not. So yeah, just do your due diligence using the NEBOSH website. I'm sure Dee would agree with me on that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I do believe that it starts with what exactly in the mode of studying, whether it's a e-learning, face-to-face, live, and then you can start looking, as long as it's accredited.
Yes.
Accredited, because the quality of learning, being a learning partner, making sure that you're getting the right people, and do not transfer your money unless you're sure that this is your accredited center. I think that will be a very important message for anyone. Yeah, and we've heard different stories just to make sure that is, and
yes,
do
but
not
you
get
will have heard lots of stories. Unfortunately, there are people that do boast to be NEBOSH accredited centres and they are not. So that's why I would always say the where to study, or just email our lovely customer service team. They are absolutely lovely, and they will respond to you and give you the assurance from NEBOSH as to whether that's a legitimate organisation. I think you've had one more question, Jeanette, at the bottom there, but I think Dee will more likely know the answer to that question than myself, hopefully.
Oh, that's imminent. I need to just check on the exact dates for that. Can I check on the exact dates, Jeanette, and ping that back to you later?
Absolutely. No worries. And then we will just put it in the comments, information for everyone. And I think you mentioned, Dee, that the presentation is going to be available for...
Absolutely, if that's helpful to people. Yeah, 100%.
Presentations.
So they can come to you, Jeanette, if they would like. You've got a copy of it. So if you, I'm sure you can send it out as a PDF, and they can have all of the slides.
Just looking.
That's an interesting. Thank you, Paulina. It was lovely to see you all and listen to you today. Thank you for raising so many important points. As a learning partner, these insights mean a lot to us and are always highly valuable. I think that's a very, very useful and a very good summary for our discussion today. So let me summarize. First of all, I would like to thank you. And when I say you, I mean personally you, Dee, Becky, for supporting learning partners, and by supporting us, supporting our learners, because at the end of the day, it's about learners and it's about them serving their workplaces, making sure that our people are safe at the workplaces. And when I say thank you, I mean also NEBOSH itself as an organization, as a charity. Very proud to be part of this family. I would like to thank you for all your support, for pushing us to be better and better, for continuous improvement, because I think that's another area that we continuously being audited to make sure that the quality of teaching, quality of learning, quality of assessment at the right place. I would like also to thank our learners, our art professionals, our managers, anyone who is involved for whom health and safety is a human value. So we will continue talking about NEBOSH in Poland because the demand is growing. We can see it by being invited at different conferences. The interviews that we had last week about NEBOSH in Poland, we will keep monitoring and keep updating you on NEBOSH in Poland. So stay tuned. Thank you so much, Dee. Thank you, Becky. Any final words from you?
Pleasure. I've got the date for the Michael Adamson Scholarship. The 28th of May, launch is 10 a.m. UK time. No final comment. Thank you, Jeanette. You are the essence of passion for health and safety and learning. So thank you for what you do and what you bring as a learning partner into your learners. And we are truly stronger together. Thank you.
We're stronger together.
Second to what Dee says, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in October when I come over for the conference in October as well. So NEBOSH will be there. So myself and I think I'm bringing another colleague along, not Dee, but I will be bringing someone else with me. So yeah.
Oh, that's a very great point. Yes, 22nd, 23rd of October, 2026, the first Health and Safety International Conference in Poland, Safety as a Business Value from Strategy to Practical Solutions. And NEBOSH, if you'd like to meet NEBOSH and talk personally to NEBOSH, please, you're welcome to register and visit us. October 22nd, 23rd. Thank you, Becky, for reminding me about that. Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you. Bye.
You can stay. We just disconnect.